Welcome, dreamers. Ready to relax and unwind? Get comfy and let our soft night tales take you to magical places. Enjoy.
Have you ever felt like you're stuck in a place where everything is moving forward, except for you? What if the key to finding peace isn't in the destination, but in the person you meet along the way? This is the story of Clara, a woman who felt like life was slipping by. She had a job she didn't care much for, friends who were more like acquaintances, and a routine that felt endless. But everything changed one cold, rainy day when she met someone unexpected, a stranger who would make her realize that even the smallest connections can change everything. It's a story about taking chances, facing fears, and learning that sometimes, the answers we seek are closer than we think. Clara had always considered herself independent, even a bit of a loner. She worked as a graphic designer at a small firm, spending most of her time hunched over a computer, making things look perfect for clients she didn't know. Her apartment was neat but sterile, with white walls and minimalist furniture that reflected how she lived, safe, orderly, and controlled. But despite all of her control over her environment, Clara felt like something was missing. She couldn't quite put her finger on it. She had friends, yes, but they were mostly people she saw at work events or the occasional weekend brunch. Real connection? That was something she hadn't experienced in a long time. One afternoon, Clara sat in her favorite coffee shop, her usual spot by the window, sipping her latte and watching the rain fall outside. She'd done this every day for months, but today felt different. She felt an inexplicable restlessness gnawing at her, like she was waiting for something but had no idea what. As she stared out at the gray sky, she noticed a man sitting at the table across from hers. He was reading a book, his eyes focused and intense, his hair a bit tousled like he hadn't bothered to comb it that morning. There was something about the way he was lost in his world, unaware of anything else, that made her feel distant, detached from life. She sighed, wishing she could feel that carefree again. Little did Clara know, this man was about to shake up her world. The man's name was Jack, and they crossed paths a few times in the next few weeks. It wasn't anything dramatic at first, just quick glances and polite smiles. But one day, Clara found herself sitting at the same table by the window again, this time with her notebook in hand, trying to brainstorm some new project ideas for her job. The coffee shop was unusually busy, so when she looked up, she realized Jack had taken the seat next to hers, looking slightly apologetic. "Mind if I sit here?" he asked, gesturing to the empty chair. Clara hesitated for a second. She wasn't the type to just chat with strangers, but something about him seemed different. He wasn't rushing, he wasn't on his phone, he wasn't pretending to be anywhere else. He seemed present. "Sure," Clara said, a little surprised by how easily the words came out. Jack smiled, settling in without much fanfare. He didn't try to start a conversation right away, and Clara appreciated that. He simply opened his book again, the quiet sound of pages turning filling the space between them. After a while, she looked up and caught him glancing at her notebook. "I'm sorry to interrupt," he said, almost shyly. "But I couldn't help but notice the sketches." "You're a designer?" Clara smiled, a little embarrassed. "Yeah, graphic design. Mostly branding stuff for small businesses. Nothing too exciting." Jack raised an eyebrow. "I wouldn't say that's nothing. I bet there's a lot more to it than just logos and websites. You ever think about doing something bigger with it?" The question caught Clara off guard. She had never really thought about her work as big or important. It was just a job. But the way Jack said it made her stop and think. Maybe she'd been looking at her career all wrong, maybe she was capable of more than just the safe, predictable projects she'd been taking on. They ended up talking for hours that day, swapping stories about their lives, their work, and the things they were passionate about. Jack told Clara that he worked as a photographer, mostly freelance, traveling to different places, capturing moments that told stories. He seemed to live for the moments when time stopped, the moments that could never be recreated. It was clear to Clara that he saw the world in a way she hadn't thought about in a long time, through the lens of possibility, of opportunity, of beauty. For the first time in a long while, Clara felt inspired. Over the next few weeks, Clara and Jack saw each other more frequently, sometimes at the coffee shop, sometimes out in the city, wandering through parks or galleries. They were kindred spirits in the way that they both felt disconnected from the world around them, but in opposite ways. Jack seemed to have no shortage of adventure, moving through life with a sense of freedom that Clara envied. And Clara? Well, Clara was the quiet observer, the one who noticed everything but didn't always know how to engage. One afternoon, Jack invited her to come with him on a shoot he had planned. "I want to show you something," he said, his voice excited. "I think you'll get it." Clara wasn't sure what to expect, but she agreed. They drove out of the city, winding through country roads, until they reached a small town nestled in the hills. It was picturesque, old houses, winding streets, and fields that stretched for miles, all bathed in the golden light of late afternoon. Jack set up his camera and began snapping pictures of the town, but this time, he wasn't just capturing buildings or landscapes. He was focused on the people, the old woman sitting on a porch, the young couple walking hand in hand, the children playing in the street. There was a quiet beauty in the way he framed the shots, as though he was showing Clara something she'd been blind to for years, the beauty of everyday life. As the sun started to set, Jack turned to her and said, "You see it, don't you? How every moment, no matter how small, is worth capturing. It's all there, just waiting for us to notice it." Clara stood there for a long time, taking in what he'd said. She had spent so much of her life trying to be perfect, to control every detail, that she'd forgotten to appreciate the moments that simply were. She'd never taken the time to look around and see what was happening around her, to feel the world as it was, rather than how she wanted it to be. The key moment came when she realized that the connection she'd been craving wasn't just about finding someone to fill the gaps in her life. It was about reconnecting with life itself. And in doing that, she began to see beauty in the smallest things, the way the light hit the rooftops at sunset, the sound of laughter in the distance, the warmth of a shared silence. After that day, Clara started to change. She didn't suddenly become a different person, but she started to notice the little things that had always been there. She began to take more chances, to step outside of her comfort zone and see the world through Jack's lens, one where every moment was an opportunity to experience something new. She didn't rush to make any big decisions about her life or career, but she started to take on projects that excited her, to create things that felt meaningful, not just profitable. And most importantly, she learned to be present. Not just in the big moments, but in the quiet ones too. The ones that made life feel real. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe for more peaceful journeys and bedtime tales. Thank you for being part of our community.